Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping straight into Henry Ford's decision-making. If you're the learner wanting knowledge quickly and deeply, we're breaking down Ford's strategies, the wins, the less successful moves too.
Exactly. We've looked at quite a bit of material on Ford,
Yeah.
covering everything from, his production breakthroughs to his labor ideas. We're aiming to map out his journey in about 7 stages, pulling out the key moments, the good and the maybe not so good, to give a really rounded picture.
And there were definitely some big moments, things like the moving assembly line, that famous $5 a day wage, which was huge back then,
Yeah.
and just his whole drive to make cars affordable. So let's get into it. Henry Ford's strategic thinking.
Right. Let's start at the beginning, maybe even before the cars. Because, interestingly, his first big idea for mass production wasn't automobiles at all.
Oh, what was it then?
He was actually thinking about pocket watches. He had this idea to make a really cheap one, maybe sell it for like 30 cents.
Yeah. 30 cents for a watch. Wow. But that never happened, did it? I remember reading he figured he couldn't sell enough to make that price work.
Precisely. The volume needed just wasn't realistic given the likely demand back then.
Yeah.
But, even in that idea failing, you can already see his core thinking emerging.
How so? What signs are there?
Well, first, there's that vision, right? Seeing a need or a potential need for affordable products for ordinary people. Second, he did the analysis. He looked at the production numbers versus the market. That's practical thinking.
Okay.
And third, adaptability. The watch didn't fly, so he pivoted. But he kept that central idea, mass production, low price, and just aimed it at cars instead.
So even though it was a failed idea, it wasn't really a waste. It laid some groundwork.
Absolutely. It cemented that principle of scale for affordability in his mind. It was also like early practice in tackling manufacturing puzzles. And it probably helped steer him towards his real passion, which is transportation, cars and roads. Got it. Big dreams, but check the reality and be ready to switch tracks but keep the main idea. Okay, so then comes Ford Motor Company in 1903. This wasn't actually his first attempt at a car company, was it?
That's right, a really key point. He'd had earlier ventures that didn't quite last. So this time, he was coming in with lessons learned. A big one was focusing on reliability right from the start.
Building trust. Makes sense. Cars were still pretty new and maybe seen as unreliable toys for the rich.
Exactly. He knew he needed to build confidence, prove these things could actually work dependably day in, day out.
And showing he could build a reliable car, plus having a clear vision, must have helped get investors on board this time around.
Definitely. That demonstrated capability was crucial for attracting the backing he needed. So the good decision-making signs here. Well, first, learning from failure, obviously. Second, that strategic focus on reliability, delivering real value early on. And third, being able to sell his vision, to communicate effectively to get those resources. And the benefits were establishing the company, building that early Ford reputation for dependability.
And securing the cash to actually grow and innovate further, absolutely.
So the lessons seem clear. Bounce back from setbacks, focus on product quality early, and get good at pitching your idea. Now, let's get to the really famous stuff. The Model T and the assembly line, this is where things properly took off, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This was the game changer. The Model T launched in 1908, but the moving assembly line, implemented around 1913, that was the true revolution in manufacturing.
And it was all centered around one single model, right? Keep it simple.
Exactly. A huge strategic decision. Focus everything on one standardized, affordable car. Forget customization, forget variety, at least for now. That was very different from other car makers at the time.
And that standardization was essential for the assembly line to work, I guess. How did that line change things so much?
Well, by having just one basic design, they could break down making a car into lots of small, repeatable steps. Each worker just did one or two things as the car chassis moved past them.
Right, specialization.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It massively cut down the time to build a car, from over 12 hours down to eventually about 90 minutes. It also meant workers didn't need years of craft training, just mastery of a few simple tasks, which also helped with costs. His big dream was clear: a car for the masses.
And he did it. He put the world on wheels, essentially. So the key decisions driving this.
Okay, number 1, product simplification. Standardize everything for those economies of scale. Number 2, process innovation. That moving assembly line was utterly disruptive.
Yeah.
And number 3, really knowing his customer or the customer he wanted to reach, aiming squarely at affordability for a huge market.
The benefits seem obvious. Mass affordability, incredible production speed, and market dominance for the Model T.
You got it. Huge advantages. And the lessons for entrepreneurs today: focus can create breakthroughs. Don't be afraid to tear up the old rule book on how things are made. And really understand who you're trying to sell to.
Okay, but that assembly line, while efficient, it sounds like it could be, well, incredibly boring work. Did that cause problems?
It absolutely did. By 1914, Ford was dealing with massive employee turnover, like astronomical figures. Some sources say around 400% annually. People just couldn't stand the monotony.
400%. That's basically everyone leaving multiple times over. How did he fix that?
With another radical move. He announced he was more than doubling the minimum wage to $5 for an 8-hour day. And he introduced profit sharing. This was in 1914, remember? People thought he was crazy.
Doubling wages seems like the opposite of cutting costs. What was the thinking?
It was actually very strategic, long-term thinking. He realized that constantly hiring and training new people because of the awful turnover was costing a fortune and disrupting production.
Ah, so the high wages were an investment to reduce those hidden costs.
Exactly. An investment in a stable, motivated workforce. He figured better paid workers would stick around, get better at their jobs, and be more productive. He talked about this reciprocal relation, treat workers well, and the business benefits.
So good decisions here involved looking past the immediate wage bill.
Yes. First, tackling that critical turnover problem head on. Second, thinking long-term about workforce stability. And third, understanding that the company's success and the workers' well-being were linked.
And did it work? Did turnover drop?
Dramatically. It reportedly fell from that 400% down to something like 16% within a couple of years. Productivity went up, and, well, it generated amazing publicity for Ford worldwide.
Wow. Okay. Lessons. Invest in your people, think long-term about costs and benefits, and remember the human side of business. Now, Ford didn't just optimize inside the factory, did he? He looked at the whole supply chain.
Correct. He pushed hard for vertical integration, basically owning and controlling as much of the production process as possible, from raw materials right through to the finished car.
That sounds like a huge undertaking.
It was. The ultimate expression of this was the River Rouge complex. It was gigantic steel mills, glass factories, power plants, everything needed to build cars, all in one place. It showed incredible ambition for scale.
And at the same time, he was also pushing outwards, setting up dealerships everywhere.
Yes. Simultaneously building a global sales and service network, expanding his reach across continents.
So the strategy was control the inputs, maximize the scale, and broaden the market reach.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The aim was less reliance on outside suppliers, more control over costs and quality, and ensuring a smooth flow of materials. The dealerships were about capturing that global market he envisioned.
Key decision-making signs, then. A drive for control and efficiency through integration. A really long-term vision for massive scale. Rouge is the proof. And that clear global ambition.
Spot on. And the benefits. Potential for lower costs, definitely. Better reliability in the supply chain. And of course, that huge market reach through the dealer network.
Lessons for today's entrepreneurs might be, think hard about your supply chain. What should you control? Plan for serious growth. And don't be afraid to think globally early on.
Absolutely relevant lessons.
But despite all this success, Ford's story takes a bit of a turn later on, doesn't it? He became quite resistant to change. That's where the any color as long as it's black line comes from, right?
Yes. That quote really sums up his later attitude. After the Model T became such a phenomenon, he seemed to get, well, stuck. He resisted updating it, resisted offering variety, even as competitors started doing just that.
Why do you think that happened? Complacency? Overconfidence?
Probably a mix of both. The Model T had been so successful, maybe he thought the formula was unbeatable, permanent. His leadership style also became more autocratic. He stopped listening as much, even to his own son, Edsel, who saw the need for change.
So the very focus that made him successful earlier became a weakness.
It seems that way. Sticking rigidly to one product when the market was evolving, not adapting. That single-mindedness turned into stubbornness.
So the signs of, let's say, questionable decision-making here.
Well, clear overconfidence leading to complacency. An unwillingness to adapt to market signals and competitor moves. That autocratic style shutting down other viewpoints. And just a failure to pivot when needed.
And the consequences were pretty serious, weren't they?
They were. Ford started losing significant market share, especially to General Motors, who were offering customers more choices, more style, more features. Internally, it caused friction and likely stifled innovation.
So the hard lessons here are about staying adaptable.
Definitely. Keep your ear to the ground, watch the market, be willing to change. Also, value different perspectives in your team. Don't become isolated. And, critically, don't let success make you complacent. You have to keep innovating.
It's a cautionary tale within a success story. But even with those later struggles, his overall legacy is immense, right?
Oh, unquestionably. Despite the later issues, Henry Ford fundamentally changed manufacturing, management, and society. His early innovations are basically the foundation of modern industry. He's a towering figure of the 20th century.
He really did bring the car to the average person. That democratization of technology is huge.
It is. And think about the production techniques. The assembly line became the global standard. Plus, his vision for an integrated business controlling the whole process, that shaped a lot of modern corporate thinking too.
So looking back at the whole arc, what are the really enduring positive decision-making takeaways?
I'd say one, making technology accessible. That drive for affordability. Two, pioneering those manufacturing methods, the sheer process innovation. Three, that vision for an integrated large-scale business.
And the lasting benefits that flowed from those.
Well, contributing to the rise of the middle class, high wages, affordable goods, huge leaps in manufacturing efficiency across all industries, and just transforming mobility and how connected society became.
So, wrapping up this deep dive on Henry Ford, it's a really powerful story about brilliant vision and innovation, but also a warning about the need to adapt and listen. Understanding his whole journey, the ups and downs, offers so much from anyone in business today.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a question for the learner, perhaps. How could those core Ford principles, mass production, affordability, accessibility, be applied today? What are the new fields where a Model T moment could revolutionize things for everyone?
That's a great question to ponder. What's the next Model T and in what area? We hope you'll keep exploring these ideas. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping straight into Henry Ford's decision-making. If you're the learner wanting knowledge quickly and deeply, we're breaking down Ford's strategies, the wins, the less successful moves, too.
Exactly. We've looked at quite a bit of material on Ford, covering everything from, his production breakthroughs to his labor ideas. We're aiming to map out his journey in about 7 stages, pulling out the key moments, the good and the maybe not so good, to give a really rounded picture.
And there were definitely some big moments, things like the moving assembly line, that famous $5 a day wage, which was huge back then, and just his whole drive to make cars affordable. So